Emissions, another really interesting question right now. We had China with this target of 2060 net zero, Japan 2050 now. What it means both in a diplomatic sense and the pressure on Australia, but also our coal exports as well.
Yeah, well, we had this phone call with Boris Johnson where each Prime Minister wanted to highlight different parts of the conversation. The British are keener on targets, and Scott Morrison making quite clear today that Australia sets its own targets. Related to this, I guess, the government has received the Bushfire Roar Commission final report, but he's sending it to the states for consultation first before releasing it later in the week. I'm told it doesn't differ that much from the interim report released at the end of August, which talked about the capacity for National Cabinet to become more involved in dealing with a fire emergency when there is a disaster across state lines or of sufficient size, as we saw last December and January. The aim being that the state and federal authorities aren't at loggerheads, as New South Wales and the federal government were in early January. After this conversation with the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson last night, where climate change came up, Scott Morrison repeating his long-held view that if developing countries like China and India don't act, and he argues they could through technology, otherwise they won't, there's no point really having tougher targets in Australia.
It's about technology, not taxes, is what we talked about last night. And that's not just important in terms of how we continue to transform our own economies to lower emissions. It's also important about how we achieve the gear change globally in developing countries. See, if the technologies don't exist that make sense for developing countries to adopt and make part of their economies, guess what's going to happen? Emissions are going to go up and up and up.